Welcome to Let's Talk Geek, episode 119, recorded on BlackBerry 10 launch day, or the 30th of January 2013. In this episode, we talk about BlackBerry 10, who'd have thought, as well as Suicide Linux, the Pirate Bay's documentary, and can your subconscious remember your passwords for you? Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching all the way through the jingle and into our show. We're going to go straight into it, so if you're watching live, join us on IRC, irc.ltnet.tv, port 6667 if you're using a proper client, #LTNet's the room. If you're not using a proper client, you can actually just use that URL, irc.ltnet.tv, and it'll go to Mibit, and you can just sign in that way.
Just put in a username and...
Change your username. Don't be mib underscore I haven't
number.
changed my name.com. Yeah. So, all right, with that, into our quick geek. In the spirit of vigilance, and for those of you who forgot, vigilance is a Python-based programming language that self-destroys itself. Yeah.
Well, if it finds things that don't match up to the contract specification, it deletes the code that's responsible for that bug.
So if code behaves badly, it deletes the code.
Yes.
Yes. In the spirit of vigil, Suicide Linux.
Suicide Linux.
Gerrit, tell us about
It's
Suicide Linux.
Glorious. So it's really simple. Suicide Linux is Linux, but if you just so happen to enter a command incorrectly, the system changes that command for you automatically to rm-rf/.
So
it starts deleting starting at root. No way to stop that. That's right. It wipes your system for you.
Why? Why would anybody install this?
Well, the guy kind of figured it's sort of a time bomb. See how long you can use the operating system before, you self-destroy it.
This has to be for students, because students have time for stuff like this.
Maybe. He says it is maybe a little bit aggressive. So, he has a couple of suggestions as to how we can tweak this. The one is that it adds a couple of more flags to make it more overt. Your system is busy deleting itself, and then you can try and stop the command and see how many files it deletes before you actually get to stop it and whether your system crashes. The other one is it stays silent, but every time you make a mistake, it deletes a file at random. So you get to see how long your system stays stable, and then when your system finally does crash, it's just one file that made it crash, so you can maybe still recover it.
So in other words, do not issue the wrong command while you're root. So as long as you're not a root user, this will not...
You should be safe. But that's the challenge. How long will you be safe for?
All right. Well, with that, on to the Nikon image space launching on the 28th of January. What's that about?
I think this is more of a kind of a rebranding. Nikon's photo sharing site, in that sense, so kind of like Flickr, 500 pixels, those types of things. This is just Nikon specific. And that's going to be launching the 28th of, or has launched the 28th of January. I should actually go check that out. And that's pretty much all there is to say about that.
Well, it is the Quick Geek. So the Pirate Bay documentary, TPB AFK, will be released for free on February 8th.
That tells you everything you need to know. There's a documentary about the Pirate Bay. It was funded through Kickstarter. I can't remember the exact amount that they needed. And they're going to be doing the screening, the premiere screening, on February the 8th. At the same time, they're going to be releasing it via the Pirate Bay. So the Pirate Bay documentary will be available for free via the Pirate Bay.
Sweet. Well, that seems to be the way to get your content noticed.
February the 8th. Put it in your calendar.
Yes.
And feel free to torrent it, because it's not piracy if they give it away for free.
So, and apparently there's been a call to SA Ouya game
I'm
devs.
calling here.
Oh, are you doing the calling?
In the recent Ouya update. So after Kickstarter, they start sending
What is
out
Ouya?
updates. Ouya is an Android-based gaming console. So it's about yay big. It's a fairly small thing. A couple of dev devices have gone out.
For those who are on the audio only, he gestured about a 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter cube.
It's a cube-like device, and it has your handheld controllers, sort of like what you're used to with an Xbox. They're busy tweaking the controllers as well. So there were some complaints with the dev devices, and they're still busy tweaking and getting the final design. This was a Kickstarter project, and it exceeded all expectations. I think they went on to make something like $10 million. Well, it was insane.
So now we're looking for developers.
Android-based console. They are looking for developers. They've just had a contest where there were 166 games were developed. And in the update, the recent update that they sent out via Kickstarter, they mentioned that South Africa was one of the countries where developers came from. I want to know who those developers are.
So that's your call. You're like,
who are you and what have you been doing?
Yes.
I want to know who
come
you
on
are
our
because
show immediately.
I want to get your games.
Yes.
And
come on our show immediately.
Yes. And I want to organize a show so that we can, get you here and get people, so that people know what you've been doing, because this is great.
And also, I don't know how many South Africans are getting an Ouya. If there's an awesome push to, let's support our local merchants, support our local game devs by getting a console that they're developing games for.
Absolutely.
If they're not going to port those games to Android anyway, then we'll just pick them up off there. But, yeah.
If that's the idea. I've found one via a friend of mine who's really into the indie gaming scene. And we're going to see if we can contact whoever is, part of that media team, see if we can get someone on the show. But I want to get, if there are more devs, drop us an email. Anything at letstalknetwork.tv. Let us know who you are. We want you on the show.
Cool. And so did you want to mention who you learnt the studio that
it's a studio called Knife Media. Okay. They have a Facebook page.
And what have they built that piqued your interest?
It's a game called Red. I actually have... I know nothing else.
I don't have an Ouya, so I don't know what it'll play like. So cool. All right. Then, SA Writers College 2013 Annual Short Story Award for Emerging Writers in South Africa. Who won?
No. This is going to be happening.
Okay.
I'm trying to find the date for it now. 30 competition closes 31st of March. Winners will be announced in April. So this is a short story competition. With short story, they mean 20,000 words. Hear me. 2,000 words. And if you're more than 50 over, they disqualify you. So 2,000 words, keep it under that. And, prizes ranging from like 5,000 Rand and a short course to People's Choice Award of $1,000. I thought it was kind of interesting. I passed it along to some friends who I know enjoy writing. I might even consider maybe doing something for this as well. I've always liked writing short stories, not so much with the long form stuff.
Cool. Yeah, sounds interesting.
That's there. The theme, doing the right thing.
Okay.
Kind of broad.
Indeed.
That's the idea.
Please don't write moral fiction, because
oh dear.
Yeah, the topic sort of lends itself to it. So
yes.
They're just going to read like billions and billions of stories. So my suggestion, as someone who's never been involved with this competition at all and whose advice you probably shouldn't be following, is to make your story set apart. Like, don't just write something about somebody who is faced with a catch-22 and makes the hard decision. That's lame.
If you know the theme, it's predictable.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess. There it is. Short story competition. So for the writers out there, go check it out. Seems kind of interesting. And if you do write something for it, send us your submission.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Maybe or just point us in the direction of where your submission will be.
Yeah.
If they do end
we'll
up
probably not
those.
be able to read the stuff on air, but we can share links to it.
2,000 words might take a while to read on air, but I'd still like to read, things that our followers publish or that they put out.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So with that, into what geekery is this?
Indeed. And what geekery is this? Subconscious passwords?
Yeah. So this is interesting, and it was added by the Mixer, and this is an article that was published last year, July already. And what is interesting about this password remembering methodology is that they purport that you can remember 30-character passwords eventually. And so what they do, and so for since this is a geek show, like normally, you do let's say you do an 8 to 12 or maybe 16-character password, and you are doing it with, silly amounts of fancy characters and all kinds of stuff. That only gives you a limited amount of entropy. Whereas, and XKCD went through this, quite extensively. Whereas if you memorize like a whole phrase that gives you far more entropy. And so
Yes.
a 30-letter password is not something that everybody does. And so
It's not even something that everybody supports.
so
mind you.
you would get, because they only use a limited number of letters, they use SDFJKL. So 6 letters, and that gives you 38 bits of entropy about. Okay? So, which is apparently, according to Extreme Tech, thousands or millions of times more secure than your average memorable password. Okay. So,
Provided, of course, that the hacker doesn't know which alphabet set you chose from.
yes and no. I mean, even if they know that this is going to be SDFJKL, because of just the number of combinations that you can go through in 30 characters, it's going to be fairly difficult to crack this bad boy. Of course,
to
the whole
calculate
world's
that,
whole world's passwords are based on this. Then you might be able to hack something at least, but it's tricky. So this is how it works. It works like they teach you through a game, and it's like Guitar Hero. So basically, it's a timed stroke thing. So you type as the keys come down to the bar at the bottom, and so it's almost through rhythm, I would say, that you learn this password. And so what they do is the game creates a random sequence of 30 letters chosen from the set, no repeating characters. So you're not going to have S, S, F, K, D, D, anything like that. And then the 30 character sequence is played back to the user 3 times in a row. Then it is padded out with 18 random characters for a total of 108 items, and this sequence is repeated 5 times for 540 items. Then there's a short pause. This entire process is repeated 6 more times for a total of 3,780 items. So you make about 4,000 keystrokes, and about 80% of these keystrokes, they say, go towards subconsciously storing the password in your brain. Right, so now I have gone through something similar with a much shorter password. And I can't tell you how many characters that password has anymore, and what exactly that password is, because I've forgotten it. So it's the password I used on my Mac, and it's a password I used on a virtual machine or on a second boot machine. And it used to be fine. Like, I would be prompted because, on a Mac, you need to provide a root password to do something. And on Ubuntu, if you don't know your password, you can't log in.
Yeah.
And I sat down in front of my machine one day and was presented with a lock screen, typed in and typed the password up to a point and realized I couldn't remember the rest. So, yeah, that might just be the old age kicking in. But I think this thing isn't, it sounds great, but it is fallible. Stuff happens with your subconscious. You lose memories. It's buried there.
Somewhere.
I might be able to remember it eventually. But the fact is, I can't access my stuff. I had to reset my passwords, which, by the way, is a pain on both platforms. It's a bit easier on... No, it's in fact the same. They both use very similar mechanisms. So I can change the password... And it's actually scary how easy it is to change your password on Ubuntu, by the way, when you have physical access to the machine. If you don't want people to do that, I suggest some sort of BIOS password or a boot password of some sort to prevent people from doing that, or an encrypted drive would help. But the only thing, once you've changed the password, the only thing the person who has changed your password by having physical access to your machine doesn't have then is your keychain. So your stored passwords they won't have. You have to have the old password to unlock that. Needless to say, I had to black my keychains and start new ones because of my forgotten subconscious password. So much for that.
Lovely.
Then a 1.8 gigapixel surveillance drone by Darpa. Gerrit, what's this about?
I don't know.
Okay. So this was also put in by the mixer.
This was also put in by the mixer, yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So the claim is that this thing can spot a terrorist from 20,000 feet, and it is named the Argus IS.
Good.
It can resolve details as small as 6 inches. So for those of you that don't know, that is bigger than the diameter of a Samsung Galaxy S3. It's about the diameter of your average GPS device, I think, for those who need a relative measure.
It's almost as big as your Nexus 7.
And that's from an altitude of 6 kilometers, 20,000 feet.
That's a fair distance,
yeah.
and that's a very big photo.
It's an incredibly high resolution.
I want to take photos like that. When am I getting that in my cell phone?
Yeah, so the United States is getting fairly scary. So the original goal was to deploy Argus in Afghanistan, but that never came to pass. It's not entirely clear what its future is, Extreme Tech reports, but it is meant to be mounted on Boeing's high-altitude A160 Hummingbird helicopter. But the chopper has since been scrapped. If Argus is to be deployed, it will most likely be strapped to the underbelly of a Predator drone, where it will be used, however, with the war in Afghanistan apparently winding down, is another question entirely. So, yeah.
Also interesting, the hard bit, according to the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, is processing all of the image data, because by the sounds of it, they're kind of strapping a bunch of sensors together. So you have 1.8 billion pixels at 12 frames per second, which then generates in the order of 600 gigabits per second, which equates to around 6 petabytes of video data per day.
Nice.
That's a lot of video data.
Fried Roadkill asks a very relevant question. Spot a terrorist, eh? How does it know people are terrorists? Don't you know, Fried Roadkill, terrorists wear red T-shirts? So you can spot them from space.
Because they wear red T-shirts because red is faster.
So you're saying all terrorists are orcs?
No, not necessarily. They just have the same belief structures.
Ah, I see.
Right. And with that random tidbit...
So we'll put this link in the show notes, I think, but Mercurial has memed it up. I don't know if this was you, Mercurial, who put the meme shot together, but it's of the Keanu Reeves meme and looking all surprised, and it says, "Did you know that Let's Talk Geek episode 119 backwards is 911?"
Oh dear.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Lovely.
That's in the IRC. If you're watching the show live, go and check out for more random rubbish like that, and we'll bomb it into the show notes as well for those of you who are watching the show
from
after
random
the fact.
tid to random bit. The next one is from a guy who said, "What's up, fan mail?" It's a guy who sent us a mail, and he asked us a question. What was that question?
What happened at the BlackBerry 10 launch event?
Aha!
Yeah. You might have guessed that there was no fan and there is no mail, but I went to the BlackBerry 10 launch event just before coming to the show, which is why we're streaming a bit later tonight. And so BlackBerry RIM, formerly RIM, now just BlackBerry.
Now BlackBerry. Thank Pi.
Yeah, so
everyone was so confused.
That was probably the first big announcement made during this launch event, because everything else up until that point we already knew.
Yeah, it's been leaking for months.
They confirmed information. They were showing us features of the phone. Well, this was before they actually got to the phone. They were just talking through the BlackBerry 10 platform and how great it is.
We haven't actually seen any of the phones. We've seen
officially
images
of the phones, but we know what the platform does. Yeah. RIM has official stuff on its website. It's been teasing this for weeks, months, a year. So it's
been so long.
It's been a while.
We've been saying for so long that it's too late.
So the first big announcement out of the BlackBerry 10 launch event was the fact that Research in Motion RIM is changing its name to BlackBerry. To just BlackBerry, that's the brand. That's going to be
company
everything.
Name. That's all of it now.
Yep. So there were BlackBerry 10 launch events in 6 countries, of which South Africa was one. So
that should tell you a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's got to do with not just South Africa as a market, but Africa as a market. But I mean, very interesting that they chose South Africa as one of the sort of global launch announcement centers. Unlike the UK and the US, North America, I should say, because Canada's getting stuff as well. We aren't actually getting devices until the end of February. So while it was a launch event, it's a launch event for, like in terms of devices becoming available.
Devices becoming available immediately.
Yeah, South Africa is not one of those countries.
For the US and Canada, I think they'll have devices by the end of the week. They'll have the full touch device.
Yes.
We'll get to in a bit.
Yeah. So
they launched 3 things, essentially. BB10, And 2 new devices.
And 2 new devices. So,
which do we want to talk about first?
So, well, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on the platform because I think there's a lot of information out there already about it. So we can highlight some things that I think are interesting. You can highlight some things that you think is interesting. Perhaps to start with the devices, to cut through, what rumors were confirmed, which one were refuted, and from the looks of it, all the rumors are true, except for the fact that there is no BlackBerry X10 just yet. There's a BlackBerry Q10. And so they've got 2 devices. The one is a full-touch device called the Z10. Sorry, North American creeping in there. And they've got the Q10, which has a QWERTY keyboard that we all know and love from BlackBerry, as well as a touchscreen.
Okay, and is that a slider or is... Okay, so
no,
that's the one on the screen.
It's like
so
a 9900. It's like the Bold 9900,
Okay.
exactly. So I played a little bit with it. The keys are bigger than any of the Bolds I've ever used. So I think it's got to do with the fact that the keys go all the way to the edge. There's no bezel to speak of. I think it's probably a slightly wider device. I played with it a little. I mean, the keys feel very nice to the touch, very soft presses. People used to the smaller BlackBerry keyboards might have some getting used to here, though. All in all, an interesting device. We are not going to see the Q10 until April this year. So that's the information I was given by Rory O'Neill, who's VP of Product and Channel for EMEA, for formerly Research in Motion, now BlackBerry. And so, and then the device that is launching globally, starting from tomorrow, is the Z10. That's becoming available in the UK as of tomorrow on all their networks, it would sound like.
Okay. And the US.
Is it becoming available in the US as well?
I think so. I'm not sure on which networks, though.
Okay, cool.
Because, well, they don't have GSM networks.
And it is also then going to launch in Canada a little bit later, 5th of February.
Interesting.
It's going to be available in RIM's home market.
Yeah, later than in other places.
BlackBerry's home market.
Sorry, that's going to take some getting used to for us.
Indeed it is. So, So, Mercurial quips. RIM should have been called RISM, really in slow motion. So, which is actually, the reason that's a very funny quip is because BlackBerry 10 has been a long time in the making. RIM then...
3 years about?
Yeah, RIM then acquired QNX, if memory served, in 2010. QNX is a real-time operating system developed by QNX Software. That is a fairly impressive piece of work.
Yes.
It is one of the few operating systems that's airline certified. And RIM used that to build their tablet OS. But as we all know, the playbook tanked quite hard.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't because of the OS so much. I actually liked the way that they were doing things on the
gesture system.
The gesture system. The OS itself I found to be fairly smooth, though you could bog it down kind of quickly, especially if you started running multiple videos in the background. But the gesture system was solid. And, the way that you'd interact with the device was actually fairly well thought out. But it was kind of a clunky device. The screen wasn't great. It could get kind of slow and lack of apps.
Yeah. And more than that, there were BlackBerry features that weren't available on this BlackBerry device. Yeah. There was no BlackBerry Mail.
Yep.
And you had to do, and no BBM, nothing like that. You had to link it to a BlackBerry before it could do anything.
Yeah. And for someone like me who's never had a BlackBerry as his permanent phone in his life, that's just no deal.
Interesting challenges they had to get around with the playbook, but that really should have been addressed. If you go, okay, cool, we don't have these features at launch, then don't take months to release those features. Good grief. Those features need to be available post-haste.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So the playbook, just by the way, will be getting BlackBerry 10.
Interesting. Which makes a whole bunch of sense.
Yeah.
But that does bring us to BlackBerry 10 and the promise the playbook showed, as its operating system showed at least. So some really interesting thing that BlackBerry 10 does is it doesn't use hardware buttons on the front of the device at all. Very similar to Nokia's MeeGo device, completely gesture driven, and to now Ubuntu phone. So the idea is that short of the hardware buttons along the side of the device, you don't need any buttons. It works by swipes and slides only.
Yeah, so it's even one-upping Android in that sense. Android Nexus devices don't have hardware buttons on the front, but they do have the soft buttons that rotate with the device.
Yeah.
So in this case, none of that.
That said, the gestures from our short hands-on today, the gestures you have to learn them. It's not something that's discoverable, which is something that platforms like Android and iOS have. Well, Android now has, and iOS has had from the beginning. Discoverability is very easy. You know exactly how to go back to previous things. If you're ever stuck, lost, or anything, you can push the giant big round button, and that takes you home. Discoverability is not really an issue.
As I understand it, BlackBerry does have a tutorial for getting you familiar with those, especially with the home gesture, which is a swipe up, and a gesture to peek at your notifications.
Yes.
BlackBerry
Once
Hub
you learn that, though, I think you're A for away. So while there is a discoverability trade-off, I think these gestures more than make up for that, because they're actually fantastic. So to wake up the device, you just swipe across. Swipe across the screen, I think in any direction, it wakes it up.
Okay.
Similar to the playbook.
Yeah.
Then if you settings are exactly where you expect them, you swipe down from the top. When you swipe from the left or right edge, I think if you swipe from the left edge, that switches back to your previous app.
Okay.
If you swipe from the right edge, that goes to your home screen.
Oh, I thought that's what Up did.
Sorry, Up takes you to your recent app list.
Okay.
And then so that's home. And then when you swipe right, that takes you to your app tray.
Okay. And the app tray is only accessible from home?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So then the most powerful feature on this device is something that's available always. So I'm not sure if settings and back are available always. Peek is. Yep. What Peek does is it shows you, it sort of brings up underneath what you're currently viewing, it brings up the BlackBerry Hub, or whatever the BlackBerry Hub has been switched to. So that can be switched to any one of your accounts. Mail, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, text messages, BBM, whatever that might be. But it can also just be set to the notifications hub, or just the unified inbox, which is now called the hub. And the way you view that is by swiping up and then right. And
so kind of like an inverted L.
Yeah. So the reason for that is up is sort of the home gesture, and then when you swipe right, it brings up the peek menu from the left.
Yeah.
And then if you swipe all the way right, then your currently open app gets pushed to the edge,
side.
And the hub comes up. And so when you're in an app and you receive a notification, your red light starts blinking and you receive a notification that you've got a new message, you can quickly swipe to peek, you can look at what's come in, decide if it's interesting to you, and go back to what you're doing. So, and that's actually a feature I've started using on Mac OS. It's not a peek feature, but it's something I've started using like peek, which is the notifications tray on the new Mac OS. It's got this thing that you swipe from the 2 fingers, swipe right on the trackpad. If a new mail comes in, then I can, I quickly peek at it, decide if I want to switch to my mail app, or look at my mail app, which is on a different monitor. And just keep. So it sounds like a trivial thing, but it keeps you from breaking your flow too badly. You don't switch away from the app that's currently got focus. Even in a multitasking environment, that's a handy thing to have. So in a non-multitasking environment like a smartphone, it might technically multitask, but the fact is you only have one thing open at any given time. It's cool to just be able to look quick and then go back. Anyway, I think we've said far too much about Hub already, but that is probably the core feature of BlackBerry 10.
Yeah, to be fair, Android and iOS actually do sort of have something in the same vein. I mean, you swipe down from the top, and it doesn't necessarily take over your whole screen. It's still a shade. It goes over your current app, and you can just swipe it back up.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
There's something to be said for BlackBerry's unified inbox way of doing things, though. It's a different thing. So what typically happens with Android is the stuff is grouped by app. So the same is true of iOS and Mac OS for that matter. On BlackBerry, I don't think that's the case, or at least it's configurable. It comes in as a first come, first serve kind of thing when you're in the hub. Yeah. So you can see the latest thing is right on top. So yeah, that's cool. You can also handle your incoming messages as a stack. Hit the hub and go, either last in, first out, or go first in, first out from the bottom up kind of thing. So anyway, I'm sure I'm boring everybody about the hub.
I would love to play with this.
Yeah. So definitely worth playing with, and they are apparently working on review devices and seed devices for everyone. Everybody that was at a BlackBerry 10 launch event is getting a device, and so they are going through a seeding process. The only holdup at the moment is the same holdup as what's holding up launches in countries. So Rory O'Neill explained to me that there are 3 things that they need to handle. I don't know if you saw the article.
I did.
three things that they need to consider, or that are factors when launching a device. First one is government regulations.
Apparently for that
in
that's
South
not a
Africa,
factor
it's
so
not
much.
it's not an issue right now. Then there's lab testing, and then there is commercial readiness. And from the sounds of it, South Africa's operators are in various stages of lab testing and commercial readiness stuff. So,
Okay.
but from the feedback we've received, official and unofficial, the devices will be in South Africa or available at retail in South Africa March. By the end of February, they'll
Okay.
be ready.
And that'll be the full touch Z10.
The
Z10.
Z10, yeah.
Yes.
The Q10 only available, starts becoming available from April. They weren't willing to, Rory once again wasn't willing to say exactly when it'll be available in South Africa, but he did sort of drop hints that Africa is a very important market to them. South Africa and Nigeria particularly, BlackBerry is the biggest selling smartphone in the country. And
Still,
yeah.
which is maybe a little sad.
And well, the big thing behind that is BIS, right?
Yeah.
So some people might say BBM. I would disagree with them vehemently.
Yes.
In South Africa, it's totally the value proposition, which we'll get to. I think it's a very important thing to mention.
Yes, absolutely.
And but Rory did say that Nigeria being the second fastest growing smartphone market is incredibly important to them. So so I mean that to me suggested that we won't see it too long after the April release date.
Yeah, after people like the States and the UK get it.
Yeah, exactly. So something else worth mentioning perhaps is the keyboard, which is something Gerrit and I have been debating on Twitter.
Okay, for the full touch.
Yeah, for the full touch. So we're talking about the BlackBerry Touch keyboard,
Yeah.
which has predictive text. Now, what's interesting about it is that it's also got a configurable option. The prediction can either be put in the top, in a bar above the keyboard, like you will see on Android and iOS, and Windows Phone for that matter, I think.
Yeah.
And then you tap to choose your prediction. But by default, what it does is it puts predictions above letters. And so let's, for example, say you're typing this. Then you type TH, and over the I, it'll be this, and over the E, it'll be the. And the is a bit stupid, but I mean, to accept the prediction, you tap the letter and swipe up. Tap the letter, swipe up. So, and so there, it actually, similar to swipe, it actually learns which words you use most frequently after one another.
I think actually similar to Swift key.
Sorry, not swipe, Swift key, correct? And then it detects whole words. So you can just swipe, kind of thing, send the words up.
Okay.
Yeah. So the
That's
debate
how it
Gerrit and I were having was,
I thought with gestural you meant that you'd be gesturing, dragging your finger across
Yes.
like that, like swipe.
Like
which
swipe,
Swift
yeah.
key has now
Yeah.
implemented
it was a bit of a poor analogy on my part because I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
So,
this is the first.
I said it's sort of like a marriage between Swift key and swipe, but it's not. It's more like Swift key than anything else. It's Swift key with gesture controls to select your prediction. Very interesting
Swift key
keyboard.
with a twist.
Yeah. I'll do a full hands-on. I don't want to bore everybody in the show now. We are getting a bit long in this segment. So I'll do a hands-on about my experiences with the keyboard, with Peak, with the browser, all that stuff later. But I really want to talk about BIS. So BIS in South Africa is a fairly important thing about BlackBerry, right? So
$60 gives you unlimited internet usage
On device.
On device.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can't tether it. It doesn't allow you to stream music or videos. So no YouTube, none of that. There were some things that might have allowed you to stream music, though. Was it SimFile?
SimFi apparently runs over the BlackBerry APN.
Okay.
Yes.
So those maybe, but for the most part,
Oh, it doesn't.
no streaming.
Okay.
But you have on device, full usage, go wild.
Yeah.
So all your BBMs, all your browsing, all of that.
Some operators
That's
offered
included.
in South Africa offered workarounds. Some, I should name them because there's only one. ATA gave BlackBerry subscribers 500 megs of data,
Yes.
which is for YouTube usage, but that gets used up by pretty much anything.
Yeah.
That
Whatever
doesn't go
doesn't
through the
use
BlackBerry
BIS
APN.
uses that 500 megs, which is plenty.
Yeah. So a very cool thing, especially considering some of the issues that have been reported on BlackBerry APN usage, on BIS usage. So some subscribers on some networks, not all networks it would seem. So Vodacom and MTN users seem to have this issue where sometimes stuff doesn't go over the BlackBerry APN. And then they get billed for it. out of bundle usage, right? So if you're on, if you're on, if you're on prepaid, that's 2 rand a meg.
Yeah.
On those particular operators without a data bundle, and you're on a BlackBerry, so you typically don't have a data bundle to reduce your out of bundle usage, right?
Yeah.
So from the sounds of it, the reason that happens is completely in the app developer's court. The app developer has, basically has to encode, somehow say which APN they use. And as I understand it, you can't just use BIS. You have to be some sort of partner of RIMS, formerly
BlackBerries.
Now BlackBerry, to be able to use their infrastructure. You can't just climb onto their APN, right? And sometimes an app like WhatsApp or Foursquare would make a change to the app and break that accidentally. And then when only people in South Africa really notice, because we're pretty much the only market with the 60 Rand flat-rated BIS offering. So everywhere else, it's not that big a deal because it comes off your data plan anyway, which you have to buy anyway. But in South Africa, you get nailed 2 Rand a meg for a Foursquare check-in. I mean, it hurts. It's not you don't download a meg in one go, but you get billed every 25K, I think, or something, per 25K. So it gets fairly expensive fairly quickly. And so, there have been issues reported like that. And now ATA gets around that by just giving you 500 megs.
Yeah.
And also, that now leads into what I wanted to say, which is that BlackBerry 10, it's now confirmed, does not work the same as earlier versions of BlackBerry. Everything does not go over RIM, formerly infrastructure, which is now probably going to be called BlackBerry infrastructure. So it uses the carrier APN for a lot of stuff as well.
Okay. Have they said exactly how it's going to work?
I don't think the people I spoke to knew exactly how it's going to work. So, but I was, being from my broadband, I was one asking questions like, is mail going to run over BlackBerry infrastructure? And that particularly was some of the stuff they're not talking about, and something like mail in particular they didn't know. So they said the experience was going to be the same, because one thing BlackBerry does that's interesting is you sign in, you give them your mail sign-in details, and then it turns any mail account into a push email that comes to your BlackBerry. And so they said the experience will stay the same, but they don't know if mail is going to go over BlackBerry infrastructure. Now, that is significant if BIS is going to change in South Africa in a particular way. So let's run through that, right? So let's imagine a world without 60 Rand BIS for a moment. So what might happen? BBM is definitely going to run over BlackBerry infrastructure. That's confirmed.
Okay.
That we know. I've asked about Twitter, Facebook,
WhatsApp,
and so on. And they said that they can't confirm that. They're not talking about that just yet. But he said he was willing to say that those properties are deeply integrated into the BlackBerry 10 experience. That's as much as he was willing to say. And if you use the BlackBerry Hub, you'll see what I mean there. Like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, all that stuff gets pushed to the hub, which formerly the unified inbox. I like calling it unified inbox because it explains exactly what it is. It's an inbox for everything. Anyway, so now, so now let's imagine a world without BIS. Now, what might happen is that things like BBM might run over a flat-rated, or might be included in the BlackBerry data package. So let's say you buy a BlackBerry data package, which gives you, say, 100 megs, 200 megs a month for, what does that go for nowadays? 75 Rand? 100 Rand, whatever it goes for. But included in that is flat-rated BlackBerry infrastructure data. So BBM in particular. Mail? See,
maybe not.
See, if mail is not included in that, it's a major failure for BlackBerry because that's one of their core usage scenarios. So, so that's where we're at as far as BIS is concerned. I don't know if you've got something to add.
Well, no, I don't have more information, but until we know more about that, what exactly is the proposition for South Africans to buy BlackBerry 10 devices?
Yeah, to upgrade from BlackBerry 7 to BlackBerry 10, apart from the fact that it's like a far superior experience.
Sure, but the point that we've made earlier is that it is all about the value proposition of the device. So if they are upgrading, what is the proposition to upgrade to a BlackBerry 10 device over something like an Android device or an iOS device?
Yes.
Or maybe forbid even a Windows Phone 8 device.
Yeah. So,
Which, I mean, if you're going for Nokia, there are some flat-rated packages for
certain
those as
Lumia
well.
devices. Exactly. So, I mean, already with the help of Nashua Mobile, and Samsung is in on that now as well, right?
Yeah.
So, Samsung and Nokia devices that are getting flat-rated packages from Nashua Mobile to precisely compete with what BIS is doing in South Africa. Now, if BlackBerry stops doing what BIS is doing in South Africa, they're losing a trick. They're missing a trick. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting time ahead. I, for one, think that it's understandable that the networks are unhappy with the state of BIS.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a controversial thing to say. If you disagree with me, pop us an email, pop us a tweet. We'll discuss it again in a future episode, why exactly I'm saying that. I'm going to try to do an article about that on My Broadband as well. So it's understandable to move to a usage-based model or a type of fair usage model.
From a business perspective.
From a business perspective.
Yeah.
From a consumer perspective, it's absolutely crap, and we should stick with 60 Rand
Yeah,
flat
and we
rated,
should
right?
get our torches and pitchforks and
Absolutely.
go do our thing.
Send them emails. Or send them hate mails. So, yeah,
Thank you, Mixer.
Thank you, Mixer. So the BIS situation in South Africa has to be at least BBM included, mail included, and social stuff included. WhatsApp,
Twitter, Facebook.
And some forms of Facebook. I understand Facebook is hard with the images and the video that get embedded in Facebook. It becomes a pain to zero rate that.
Yeah, sure.
Money-wise, from an operator perspective, from a consumer perspective, if you do a partial Facebook inclusion in BlackBerry infrastructure, it's a very poor experience.
Yeah.
Because now you've got this text-based Facebook feed and somebody goes lol, and there's this thing where a picture is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you can't see it because you're in BlackBerry
Like
infrastructure.
flash needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
So yeah, that's not good from a usability perspective anyway. So I feel like that was actually very boring, and I do apologize. We'll do that in a more interesting way in future. We'll figure that out. The Mixer was going, and the Mixer's a BlackBerry user, going, please wrap this crap up. But needless to say, the BlackBerry 10 launch was very interesting, and you should take note if you're interested in tech at all.
It's here finally after 2 years of waiting.
We were hoping for 2011 launch, didn't happen. 2012 launch didn't happen.
And I mean, ever since then, they've been losing market share all over the place.
Hemorrhaging is the word I would use.
Yes. In the US, they're basically nothing. In the UK, I think it's more or less the same situation. In South Africa, it's different. But again, we have flat-rated internet. So will this be able to bring them back in the more first world markets?
Yeah. I must say this in conclusion about the launch. What impressed me in particular about this launch was how it had everything. So this wasn't like the Playbook launch where they just had a device, limited content and stuff, and it kind of fell flat.
That's something worth mentioning. Talking about content, is BB10 is launching with, they said, 70,000 apps.
Yes.
Which is a substantially greater amount than what Windows Phone 7 launched
and
with.
46 top apps, which is something that Windows Phone focused on with their Windows Phone 8 launch.
Now, it's also worth mentioning that 70,000 apps, they are including stuff like Android apps that have been ported over. And like the Playbook, or the newer version of software that you can put on the Playbook, you can run Android apps which were made for 2.3. So Gingerbread, which is, kind of old. And you can port those apps over to BlackBerry. It's quite a process. We've had that on one of the previous shows. And
if you're interested in that, we can discuss that again because it is cool. And
I'll have
that.
to take another look and see if that's improved at all.
Yeah.
But you can port those apps over, and so you can have Android apps running, and those are included in the 70,000 thing.
Okay.
And the experience with those, I'm also led to understand, is not so great because it's basically another OS within your OS. You're doing OSception, operating system inception. Thing
so
here.
worth mentioning in particular, Skype, WhatsApp, Amazon Kindle support from the get-go.
Lots of big things.
Right, so now
things that they
I just wanted
have.
to wrap up that point, which was it wasn't just a platform launch. It wasn't just a device launch. It's like they've relaunched. It's almost like they're launching a new company. They changed the name. And I think that was, even though it's such a minor thing, I think
it's big news.
It's important because of the impression I think it's going to create. Everything about this is new. And and they're pushing in with everything. They've got a content offering, an app offering, like content as in media content, video, music, a solid app offering, solid device offering, and finally a solid operating system offering. And they're pushing, and they're pushing with this all at once. If this doesn't succeed, nothing would have. I think RIM has done very well, and if they die now, if there's no uptake, and if they die now, they've done everything they could, and they've done it right.
Right now, I don't think they're going to be threatening iOS or Android just yet, but I think they're definitely in competition to threaten Microsoft.
Take back their position from
some
Microsoft.
There, and maybe get some of the lower end users on Android, steal some of those away. Those that have been switching to Android because their BlackBerries just haven't been doing what they needed it to do. I think they can maybe steal those away, get some extra market share, and that might just be enough to keep them going and for them to just keep going and keep improving, because this looks like a very solid offering from them.
If you've stuck around to listen to us rant about BlackBerry 10,
thank you for that.
Yeah, this whole segment, I appreciate that. We're going to move into the next section, and so stick around. Brings us into our kicker, and today's kicker is another punt for my wife Annie, who is running or who is trying to get to space. It's been a long time dream of hers, and Axe is running a competition called the Axe Apollo Space Program, Space Agency, Space Academy. There we go, AASA. Very unfortunate naming, but be that as it may, she is currently in second position. All right, if you've listened to this punt last week, you're going to hear some of the
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, you're going to hear some of the same information, but it's important. So, Annie is not just going to space on a whim. This is something that she's wanted to do for a very long time. And so, when she was younger, she actually went to the NASA Space Academy in Alabama. There we go. And she went 2 years in a row at great sacrifice to her family, and was named there, or was given there, the Right Stuff Award, which means that the folks at the camp felt that she had what it takes to become an astronaut. Since then, for those of you who are into space, NASA has stopped their shuttle program. So there was really no way for her to get to space, even if she did pursue a career at NASA. So this is a way for her to get to space. She is doing really well. She's in second place at the moment.
And as I understand it, the top three
go to camp.
Yeah, get to compete for the position to
go to space. Yeah. So if you get her through here, she stands a chance. Yes. She just has to be in the top three. But the top three, there is heavy movement and heavy competition. Annie takes the first position, and then the other guy.
Yeah, first and second are in very, very serious competition. And the third position as well is now being heavily competed for. And the guy in third or fourth, whichever, is pushing really hard.
Yeah.
So he's gunning for that first place. There's still, I think, about a month to go.
Yeah, it closes at the end of February.
End of Feb, so we have just less than a month,
Yeah.
Call it
break out all
days.
your email addresses, break out all your catch-alls, and vote for Annie. So the votes are by email addresses. It is recaptured, so you can't easily spam votes.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are ways, and I'm sure some of the guys are doing it. But it's not easy because reCAPTCHA is tricky to fool.
Yeah.
So it has to be a human voting.
You can use catch-all email addresses, stuff like Gmail with its aliasing. You can use stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there is no one watching the show who only has one email address.
Yes.
So
even if you want to do this legit way, use all your
email addresses. And if you're worried about spam, I haven't received anything just yet, but just filter it out.
Yes, exactly.
Just mark it as spam once and never care about it again.
Exactly. Cool. With that, thank you so much for joining us. Remember to join us next week. Remember to check out our other shows. Very exciting news. We've got Let's Talk Hack on the network now. Are they the Mixer assisted with yesterday's episode?
Yes.
So they're on Tuesday nights. Are they doing it a weekly? Okay.
Once a month.
Once a month, similar to Let's Talk Afrikaans.
Yeah.
Which is less regular
at the
than
moment
that.
less. We're not even going into that.
Yeah.
Cecilia is very busy.
Yes, that'll happen when you're working an engineering job in the middle of the Karoo.
Married.
And just got married.
Congratulations!
Let's Talk Possibility on every Monday night.
Yes.
Congratulations to those guys. They never miss a show.
Yeah.
Unlike at Blame Jan. Let's Talk Geek.
We can blame Jan. So Let's Talk Hack. That would be the House for Hack guys getting together, talking about events that are happening in the House for Hack.
Yeah,
it's just for if you're hacking things, hacking hardware, hacking software. These are the guys you should be watching.
Yeah, so it's not just, as the Mixer pointed out, it's not just a House for Hack thing. House for Hack is spearheading the show, though. So,
Yes.
but this is a show for hackers. They're going to get hackers on from all creeds, walks of life and places and affiliations, not just House for Hack, I assume, and get them to talk about the cool stuff they're doing. So check out that.
And talk about cool hacks.
Yeah, check out some of our previous shows. We're on. You can check out our website. Just ltg.letstalknetwork.tv. I think will get you there.
Yep.
Or you can check out what we've uploaded to YouTube. You can subscribe to our podcast and download the stuff that way.
You can like us on Facebook.
Like us on Facebook.
You can +1 us on Google+.
Follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter.
Yep. So,
and you can blame Jan
you can also follow at Blame Jan
on Twitter. True story. Because it's awesome. And with that,
thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again next week. If
Yes.
all goes well, we will not cancel again like we did last week. We're so bad.
well, last week we kind of I think we had one person who could come and present.
Yeah,
So
the work got in
that
the way.
wasn't going to happen.
So, yep, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be here again, same time, same place, earlier time, same place next week. No press event scheduled for then. So, and James Etherington Smith for My Gaming has confirmed
Yes, indeed.
for next week. So he's going to come on, talk some games.
We're going to talk loads of games.
Yep. See you then.
Thank you.